Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another podcast with the Aging in Place Directory. Today, I am so honored to have as a guest Evangeline Bates with Evangeline Interiors. As an occupational therapist, I have always given my patients, all the pragmatic tools and everything that they need to age in place. But as someone who doesn't have an eye for design and still doesn't, I am always so intrigued and enamored by people who can do that, who incorporate both, and Evangeline has successfully done that. So thank you so much, Evangeline, for joining me on this podcast.
Well, Esther, thank you for inviting me today. It's really I'm sure it's a pleasure for me to be here, and I feel honored to be here with you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you want to see Evangeline's website, it's at evangelineinteriors.com. And she is in or serves the Eastern Massachusetts, Southern New Hampshire area, but, her services are nationwide. How do you do that, Evangeline? How do you service nationwide? I mean, is it
So
virtual or?
it's usually a virtual consultation. Um, I myself, I prefer to do it more locally. I feel that it's really important to get to know the client, to get to know their surroundings. But sometimes that can't happen, and they just want something quick. They just want a quick report because they need to get going on things. So I will do a virtual with them. But only if it's really a necessity at that point that we have to get it done at that time.
Yeah, and that happens so often with older adults because they tend to not make changes until they have to make the change. And then at
Exactly.
that point, as you said, it's an immediate need.
Yes.
So do you often speak with the homeowner or with the family members of the homeowner?
You know, both. Actually, sometimes I will speak with the homeowner who actually is thinking about aging in place and wants to start planning ahead. Um, which is really the key to successful aging in place, is to plan ahead. But sometimes, as you had mentioned, it's somebody that's coming out of rehab
Right,
and their family gets in touch with me saying they have to go home, but their house is not ready for them to go safely back at home.
right.
There are different reasons why people call me for that reason. But it's always important, again, to plan ahead, but then also in the respect as far as having somebody come out of rehab, that's actually where I would get an OT involved, and we'll collaborate, putting a report together.
That's very important, actually. And as an OT, I often would work with other healthcare professionals and definitely the families and my patient, to gather ideas of how to best set up that environment for that person. I think it's so important to realize it's never just one person who's involved in this because there's so many factors. I'm sure
Mhm.
sometimes you have to talk with contractors and handymen and whomever, electrician, whatever is needed to do what that person needs. But then your eye on design also involves everything from color to how it looks and to incorporate it into the person's existing environment so that it doesn't look,
Ins-
hospital like.
yeah, institutionalized.
Right.
And so, as far as aging in place and thinking about the aging adult in their environment, yes, color consults, things like that, are very important, and they're a little different than just doing an interior design for a younger person, because you really have to figure in wall color. Our eyes age. When we're aging, they turn yellow. So we have to make sure that we pick the right colors on the wall that can adhere to that change. We have to make sure there's a contrast between the floor and the wall for an aging adult so they can see their environment better. Little things like putting levers on the doorknobs instead of the doorknobs is
Right.
another little thing that you can do, where you put the microwave
True.
is really important. Making sure that your countertops for your vanity or for your kitchen countertops, they don't have a glare on them because glare can really impact an aging adult and what they can see, and make sure there's plenty of lighting in their environment. So there are certain things that are part of universal design, but if you don't have those things in place already and you're trying to promote a safe environment for an aging adult, these are the things to consider for that aging adult. And of course, if there's any health issues, again, getting in touch with the health professionals so you know how things are going to be for them now, but also in the future so you can plan ahead.
Exactly, exactly. And that's a big important factor is not just working for what is happening now, but trying to
Mhm.
anticipate and see what they can use for the future. There's no sense in making a change for something now if it's not going to work,
Exactly.
2 months from now. I mean, you can't know everything, but you certainly try. How did you get involved in going from design? Well, I'm
Mm,
assuming you began with design and then added this
I did.
new
Um,
skill.
So I was a typical traditional interior designer for almost 30 years. And then I was at a networking group and I was talking to an architect and a contractor. And they asked me if I knew anything about universal design, aging in place. And honestly, I did not know. I never even heard those terms. And they told me, something, this is something that's really going to be important for us to have in the future. I would recommend that you go back and do some research on it. And I did. And Esther, the more research that I did on both aging in place and universal design, it was like, oh my goodness, why aren't we doing this already? This is
Right.
crazy. It's not something that, is just
Right.
a trend. It's something that has to be done for everyone. Um,
Right.
so from there, I started getting my education in universal design. I got my certification for aging in place. And it wasn't until, again, I had a family situation that my aunt could not um, visit my home anymore because it was not visitable for her anymore. She couldn't make the
Mm.
stairs. She couldn't get around my house. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, I know what to do now. So at that time, I said, you know what? If I'm put in this situation with my own family, how many other people are out there too facing these challenges and really have no clue as to what to do, or knowing that there are things that you can actually do.
Exactly.
So that's how it all started. And from that point on, Esther, it's just been a passion of mine to really advocate for universal design for new builds. And, if I have a client that wants to start remodeling, I try to introduce universal design elements to
Yeah.
them. Again, it's always a new concept, but once they understand it, they're saying, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense. So
Right.
that's how it all started.
I think that's great. And it's so true. I mean, once it personally hits you and
Yeah.
then you can actually see the benefits and the end result. I mean, here your aunt can now live comfortably and
Yeah.
for longer.
Yes.
I mean, I always think that the whole concept of aging in place is not something that should be done after an accident or illness or
That's
event.
right.
The idea is to try to prevent that
Exactly.
accident, from happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so important. There was an article a few months ago in the Wall Street Journal about boomers wanting to stay home.
Yeah.
They had purchased these big houses 10, 20, 30 years ago, and they want to stay there, which is perfectly understandable. But the photograph that they showed in the newspaper was everything was wrong in that room. I mean, everything from square glass coffee tables to multiple tables around and, steps going up. I mean, you can't always change those, but I mean, everything was so crowded and rugs everywhere. And it was just
Yeah.
like I had a field day tearing apart that photograph. And I always said at the end, I hope these people who were in this photograph, are watching this and make a change in their living room because it looks
Yeah.
like a beautiful house. I'd love to see them stay there longer.
Yes.
But yeah, and it's difficult. I get it. It's difficult as you get older to change. And
Yes.
especially the concept of letting go of things,
Yes.
large pieces of furniture in small spaces, and not clutter. I don't want to say clutter, but just so many things that you could
Could
fall
cause.
into and hurt.
Yes. And it's really, so when you're working with an aging adult, it's a big psychological um and thing that you're working with. So it's not just picking out colors and things like that. You really have to, first of all, have them get to trust you first.
Yes.
um and that's a real big thing when you're working with aging adults. That's why it's so important to get to know them first, to get to know their environment, to get to know their likes and dislikes, and like everybody else, to get to know their vision for their environment. And once they start trusting you, then they'll take on your recommendations a little bit easier. But it's a big thing for them to change, and to think that yes, they are getting older. So sometimes I think they don't want to make these changes because it's only showing that they are starting to age, and
Yeah.
they don't want to be in
Yeah.
that situation. So yes,
Yeah. But the funny thing is that if they don't make that change, it will age them quicker
yes,
because something inevitably happens.
that's right.
I can't tell you as a therapist, how many hundreds, if not thousands of patients I treated in all those years who were with me because of something so silly,
Yeah.
carrying a basket of laundry down the stairs or bumping into a coffee table and falling or tripping over a rug or just some silly little one
Yeah,
second thing that changed their entire life. And,
exactly.
um, so my perspective is always prevent it and prevent it.
That's right.
So, what does the process look like? If I were to call you as a client, what does that process look like from from what you offer, your services?
So what I would do is, like I said, I'd go on site to the house. I'd take, the exterior is just as important as the interior. So, I would take pictures on the outside, take some notes from that point, go on the inside, again, take pictures of every room, take some more notes, sit with the clients, talk to them, as I mentioned, about their challenges now, and if they and what it's going to be like in the future for them. Think about their vision as far as how they want to live in their house, and think about their style too. It's really important, and this is where I kind of come in, that it's really important that they still feel like it's their home and their
Yeah,
environment. It's their oasis. So they want to be comfortable in their home, and they don't want to feel like someone's just coming in and just redoing everything for the safety issue. And now it's going to be like a hospital. So that's what we try to prevent. Um, and again, it's just by knowing what finishes to pick out, what colors to pick out, um, that's going to also work for the client themselves, and what they like and what they envision the environment to be. So once I've done that first initial consultation, then I do write up a report, which I present to them. They look the report over, and then it's up to them to decide whether they'll just keep the report. Sometimes we'll have to prioritize what we think is the most important things to do
mm,
first, so they don't get overwhelmed.
yeah,
Um, and they'll either ask for my help, to move on to these projects where I can bring in the people that I know as contractors and things like that, or they'll just take the report and then work on it themselves. So they have, their choice. Sometimes they decide to do it on their own, and they find that it's overwhelming, and they call me back in again. You know, so so that's usually the way I work. And again, it's really however the client really wants to work with me, I'm always there for them. And as you know too, Esther, it's not just the infrastructure of the home that's important, but it's all the puzzle pieces that are put
Hmm.
together, all the support that these people are going to need, the clients are going to need in order to stay in their homes.
Hmm.
Our homes, even if they're universally designed or aging in place as far as safety, it doesn't mean that that's all you're going to need to be able to stay in your home. It's all the other support systems that are really important. And this is where it's important, like for myself, to get to know trusted people that I can recommend in the industry to help whatever needs that they have at the time.
Exactly. That is so true. And that's even more important, I think, or at least I've seen that glaring need in more rural areas.
Yes.
They been living in this home that's miles from the next neighbor, and yeah, you can universal design the heck out of that house,
Right.
but if they are so far from services that they may eventually need,
Hmm.
it's it's almost a futile event. But it's difficult to change. I get that.
It
I
is.
get that. But you're right. Support is so necessary. That's why I
Yes.
always encourage people, join as many things as you feel comfortable with, whatever, church, volunteer group, anything, whatever it is that people get to know you and you can build that community, because you're not the
Absolutely.
only one. There's so
Exactly.
many others out there that are in need of that.
Yes.
Have you found it difficult to find um, uh, contractors, handymen, electrician, whatever, that work with you that have that knowledge base, or does it matter that they have that
You
knowledge
know,
base?
I feel like it doesn't matter as far as the work that they can accomplish, but it matters to me that when I'm talking to contractors or handyman or anybody else that I need to bring in to help me make this home safer, um, we should be on the same page. They should know the language that I'm speaking.
Yeah,
They should know that if we're going to put a no entryway, a no step shower, that
yeah,
they know that the plumbers that they need to know the type of drainage system that we need, so there aren't any problems in the future. And just to get to know the terminology, and for them really to be on the same page as I am,
hmm,
as far as my knowledge. So when I'm talking to contractors and handyman, I'm always telling, it's not that difficult to go get your CAP certification, just so you know, what people are talking about. And some of them have, and some of them just say, well, I've always done this the way I've always done it. And
yeah,
um, but it's really important, as far as I'm concerned, for them to know, about aging in place and what can be done, so we can actually really collaborate together on a project.
exactly. Because the language is so important. And I
Yes.
was happy, when I took my CAPS course, it was so nice to see contractors in there, because then number one, they're not only building their skill set, but they're
Hmm.
also recognizing the trend of
Yes.
how things are going. I mean, with 10,000 plus people a day turning 65 for many years to come, it just makes sense to add
Yes.
that skill set to your background of information to what you're
Absolutely.
doing, especially nowadays. I mean, the days of
Absolutely.
having one skill and having that your entire life and retiring with the golden watch, those days are gone.
Yeah.
You know, we all need multiple skills in order to continue growing.
Yes.
And I always loved the idea of continuing working. You know, retiring is not, I mean, it's an option, but to me, retiring is working because you have to keep active, you have to keep learning, and you have to keep
Yep.
in, involved, I think.
Engaged, right? Yes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, when I speak to my friends who are retired and literally retired, you know, and you go out to dinner with them. So, what have you been up to? Nothing. You know,
Mm,
so you want to constantly engage yourself, I think, which
yep.
really helps to keep you young. And universal design, aging in place concepts, you know, design itself is forever evolving
It
and
is.
changing. And I mean, now I think I saw the other day some kind of paint that's antibacterial or
Yes. Low
something like that.
VOCs. Exactly.
Yeah, I
Mm,
mean,
yep.
it's just amazing the things that they're coming out with. I saw also a, light, overhead light. I think it's called Numi. I'm not 100% sure, but not only is it a ceiling light, but it's also a fall detection device, you know,
Yes.
which can identify if you fall. I mean, I love that integration of design and pragmatics.
Yes.
I
And
think
that's
it's
what's
so
getting so
amazing.
exciting about this whole sector is people are starting to realize that this is important and they're getting so creative with their products now.
Yes.
And it's so exciting to see. And it's great just to look up everything that new that's coming up and see how you can apply it to maybe your next project. So to me, that's really exciting what's going on now in this
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
Um, and that people are starting to realize that it is a real thing, aging in place, and we really need to start focusing on it, and people have started. So it's a lot of fun too. I really get very passionate on this topic. And you talk about maybe retiring, and I'm the age that I can retire, and I'm saying every time I think about slowing down, I said, oh, but no,
Yes.
I can't, and then I find something else that I find interest in.
I know.
And just like, so now my new passion too, along with aging in places, what's the housing going to be like?
Right.
The situation for solo agers, and
Right.
we have to come up with other types of housing and things like that. So I've kind of drifted off a little bit now, and I'm getting involved with all these organizations to find solutions for different types of housing. So I'm always being stimulated, again, in the same for the same reason, but just
Right.
widening my goals and expectations. And
Mm.
it's really, I said, why would I retire?
I know, exactly. I mean, that word isn't even here. I mean, I'm at
Yeah.
that age also. I'm past the age of retiring and the official whatever retiring age. But it's just it's amazing to because you're right. You get that stimulation, you get that
Yeah.
excitement. And also on top of that, you're helping others. You know, you're
Yes.
helping them to
Yes.
continue their life and live independently. That's what the
Yes.
majority of older adults want, in my experience,
Yep.
is to be independent. And with
Yes.
so many, as you said, living solo, solo agers, my husband
Mhm.
passed away years ago. So I get that, where now what? Now what do you do? How do you change your environment? How do
Yeah.
you accommodate that? What do you do? So that's why I love that whole concept of the village movement. Do you
Yes.
know about that?
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
I love that idea
Yep.
because here now you've got a group of people in a community, and I think it started up in Boston.
It did. The
Yeah,
Back Bay area. It did. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I love that idea
isn't
and
it? It
that,
is wonderful.
expanding. And here they are. That is a great group of
Yeah.
uh, people, I think, to educate them on that whole concept because they
Yeah.
are actually aging in place,
Yeah.
but assisting each other
Exactly.
in that
Yep.
community. I love that idea. So you're
Yep.
right. There's always so many new things. I'm waiting for a new design for the Alexa devices.
Ah,
They all kind of look the same. So I'm waiting for them to get a little more integrated into actual design. How can you make them look like part of the room,
yeah,
part
instead
of
of
the
having a
area?
yeah,
Because I think those devices are so important
they are.
for safety and so many things.
Yes.
Um, you know my mom-in-law was I think 95 before we introduced it to her, when we first introduced her, and she had a hard time using it. She kept yelling at it and it just wasn't working. So I get that it's just a foreign thing. I understand that, but I think in baby boomers, we've been with it for a while now,
Yes.
so I think for us integrating that, it'll be a lot easier for us to continue using that. But yeah, I
And
would love to see a new
yeah,
design of that so
yeah,
that it's integrated into the room. It doesn't look like an
exactly.
Alexa
So
device.
that goes all under the smart home environment.
Yes,
Which,
yes,
as you mentioned, we're since we've been around some of this technology for a while, we're getting used to it. But the real older adults, this is all new to them.
right.
So as time goes on, we're going to be more familiar. We're going to be more used to having, again, when you talk about the smart home, it used to be just for the luxury homes, but now
Yeah,
it's almost a necessity now when
yes,
you really think about the safety of your home,
yes,
and what you can do. To integrate the safety and not have it show, around the house that you don't even know that it's there.
right.
Um, so now it is becoming more popular. It's been a lot of times put in the budget, which at one
Yes,
time it was never put in the budget. So I think we're gonna see and more of that acceptance now too. So like everything else, as time goes on, more things will be accepted, and easier to use too.
I think so. I think so. I mean, it would be great to see Alexa devices look like a painting.
Yes.
Something that is hung on the wall, and then when you need it, you can activate it, tap it, and it turns into a screen. And I've even seen years ago where kitchen countertops will be integrated with screens and videos. And I mean, there's just so much Jetson kind of things.
Yes.
We're all waiting for Rosie the robot, right?
Yes. A couple of them, please.
That's right. That's right. One to drive you, one to clean the house. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. I'm still waiting. I hope I live long enough to see that, because that is just, that's my dream. That's true. So, are there any tools or gadgets that you love to recommend to people that they don't normally think about adding to their home to make the home more age in place friendly or senior friendly?
Well, I guess what I can offer is that there are things that you can do today in your home that isn't very expensive to do. And anyone can actually do it. Is so things that I do suggest right off the bat, is actually picking up all the scatter rugs in
Mm,
the house. And
yes.
if you do have an area rug, then make sure that it's taped down around the edges so there is not a tripping fall.
Yes.
As I mentioned, as far as the doorknobs, change all the doorknobs to the lever handles. It just makes it easier for everyone just to open up the door. I mean, you can always, even if you have things in your hands, you can always use your elbow.
Right.
Where you place the microwave, it always upsets me when I go into a 55 plus unit and they have the microwave over the stove. And I'm saying, what is this? How can you call yourselves 55 plus and still not have it um, for anyone to age in this area?
Right.
It just
Level.
doesn't make sense.
Right.
So things like that. The faucets. So one of the newer gadgets, I mean, they're about 10 years old, and each year now they get better and better for functionality. But the wand faucets in the kitchen, which makes it really easy when you're working around the kitchen, that you don't have to turn the knobs on. You can just wave your hand and and have the water come out.
Right. And
Uh,
that's so important if you
mhm.
have severe arthritis, especially rheumatoid
Exactly.
arthritis, to just be able to do that and have it activated and then turn it off as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
And cleanliness too. You're not getting the faucet all dirty and things like that if
true.
you've been working with chicken and things like that. And then in the kitchen too. So a lot of times, if I'm working for a remodel in a kitchen, I always recommend taking all the knobs off, and then and having pulls put on that you
Mhm.
can really put your hands under and just pull without having to clutch the knob. And again, because of dexterity issues, whether you have them
Right,
now, but you're now again thinking in the future,
right,
why should you wait until something happens
right.
or you come down with arthritis that you can't open up your cabinets anymore? Why don't we make these changes now? And you know something? It looks really nice and updated now.
Yeah,
It has a nice
true.
updated look.
Right.
So, you're hitting two things with one change, an updated look, but functionality for the future too. So just
It's
things like
true.
that.
It's true. I had a designer who wanted me to put down rugs. And I said, "Oh no." I said, "As an
Ex-
OT, I am anti-rug, but I
Yeah.
love the look of them." So
Yes.
I don't know if you can see behind me, I found these vinyl rugs, which is just, I mean, they're extremely, extremely thin. They're anti-slip. And because they're vinyl, they're so easy to clean. And especially with pets, I have pets,
Yes.
so it's just extremely, so I tell everyone, if you absolutely have to have a rug, which I get it, aesthetically, it does
Mhm.
look great, at least go with something like that
Yes,
to,
something with a very, very low pile.
right.
But then getting back to your question too, as far as new products out there. So when we're talking about aging in place too, we're thinking about maintenance too, easy maintenance,
Yes.
which is a big thing. So now a lot of products for bathroom surrounds are just these sheets of material that look like marble, or they look like a tile. But all you need to do is just wipe them down. There's no grout, even though it
Right.
looks like grout, but they're not real grout lines. So again, easy maintenance, but again, a nice updated, fresh look. Um, so
True.
this is why I get so excited because new things are always coming out now, and people are really becoming very innovative with their
They are.
design. Yeah.
What is that material that those surround shower and bathtub? What is
So
that?
there are different ones. I just spoke to somebody who their business is actually the surround is a click mechanism,
Oh,
so that but you don't see the lines. But again, it looks like a tile, but there's a lot of there's good insulation in the back, and it doesn't promote mold and things like that. And they're a little thicker. Then there was somebody else that I was talking to, and their surround is actually like a quartz material, but it's very, very thin. And those are slabs that they can put on too.
wow.
So there's a lot of different things out there. So it's not just one product. And yeah. So it's just knowing what's out there and what to offer your client.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, and I
that's
would think
important.
that that's a constant learning.
Yes,
Yeah,
always,
right,
always.
right. Because
Um,
as you said, there's so many new
yeah,
innovative products coming out
yeah,
now all the time. And I love I mean, you're right on the money when it comes to maintenance. Because as you get older, I mean, one, you're involved in a lot of activities, hopefully.
yes.
So you're doing a lot of things. So who has time to sit and scrub the
Oh,
shower and all of that? And two, excuse me, and two, you may not have the physical stamina or capabilities
Yep.
anymore to maintain that.
Yeah.
As an OT, going into assessing someone's home to see if they could go back home,
Hmm.
a lot of places that I went to were in such disarray only because of lack of maintenance.
Yes.
They simply couldn't get down to clean the bathtub or the shower or the kitchen or the
Yeah.
refrigerator or whatever. So, yeah, that's why the pull-out shelves are easier to
Yes.
maintain. As you said, the surround showers are easier. Anything that you can do low maintenance is
Exactly.
definitely a part, I think,
Exactly.
of the concept of aging in place.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I think your clients are very lucky to get you
Oh,
um,
thank you, Esther.
for the
Thank
services.
you.
Sure, because your knowledge base is so expansive. I mean, absolutely. Do you have any? Oh, I wanted to ask you, what do
Yes.
you think about bidets? What do you think about incorporating those more into houses?
Oh,
A
yes.
bidet, yeah,
I think it's very important. Again, in the US too, we're kind of behind with the times a little bit too.
yeah.
In Europe, everyone has bidets, and they've always had them.
Yeah,
And just like wet rooms in the bathroom, I mean,
I know.
we have no clue. And then it comes this way. It's like, I've never seen this before.
I
So,
know. How
um,
barbaric.
but bidets to me, especially, I think we realized too how important they were. After the pandemic,
Yeah,
when we couldn't get the toilet paper and
yeah,
things like that, and you talk about sustainability. Instead of using all of this toilet paper and things like that, I mean, bidets there's so many positive reasons why to have a bidet. I know too, as you get older, it makes it a little harder to clean properly and things like
sure.
that. So a bidet, is there and helps you, keep fresh and clean, and you don't have to worry
Right,
because, if you do let yourself go, then there are other issues, right? That
right.
can cause health problems. So to me, bidets are a big thing that should be incorporated in at least one bathroom that's used regularly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
I think so. And you're right. In America, it's such a foreign
yeah,
idea. You're like, what? Why would
yeah,
I have that? But when you really think about the pragmatic of it, and I mean, you're right. When you're building a 55 plus or a senior living community or whatever, why not
exactly.
incorporate, I mean, from the get-go,
Yep,
incorporate a bidet, especially nowadays, because it's not as if you need two separate units.
right.
It's just one unit.
That's built. Yep, built
It
in.
makes so much sense.
It
So
does.
so yeah, I like to talk about bidets, because I think it's important. And I think just like anything, the more you talk about it, the more normal it seems.
Yes,
So then people will get used to
yes.
the idea of
And they'll start asking for things like that.
mhm,
And I think that's the key too, as far as contractors and developers,
mhm,
that it's really important that we just keep educating
right,
people about universal design as it relates to aging in place. And once people get a handle of it and accept it and say to themselves, yes, this is what we need, they'll start asking for these elements, and then the contractors and the developers say, yes, we are going to start doing this.
that's right. And oftentimes I think it hits them like it hits you and like it hits most people when it's personal.
Yes,
When it happens
yes,
to mom, dad, aunt, uncle,
yep,
cousin, brother, sister, whatever. Yeah, then it's like,
yep,
oh, I get it now.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. Do you have a client story of someone who you feel has done so well with aging in place, as far as altering their environment?
Yeah, actually, so one of the clients that I'm really proud that I was able to help her, we have Habitat for Humanity here, and there's a critical repair program that's part of it. And people are able to put in an application for some home repairs that either they can't afford, or um, that are needed for them to live safely in their homes, like putting up grab bars and things like that. So this particular woman got put in her application for the critical repair program. And her problem was that doctors weren't listening to her as far as her falling in the house all the time, and just different things, that ailments that she was coming up with. They, in a way, they weren't even believing her. So she said, I just need to do something in my house just so I don't keep falling and things like that. So they actually got in touch with me. The Habitat got in touch with me so I could do a consult, an in-home consult for this woman. And I came up with a nice 2-page report for her, as far as putting handrails in, as far as her entryway from the outside. She had a lot of rugs everywhere, just things like that, that I just noted. And I told her how, we could fix the problem. And she was just so grateful. She did everything, to the point now that she's actually volunteering for Habitat, trying to help others.
Wow.
Um,
Oh,
so
that is a great
that was,
story.
yeah, that was a real special client for me, that really kind of validated what I do and why I do it.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know,
ageism is definitely an issue in healthcare.
yes,
You get to a certain age, and especially women. I don't know why, but I know a lot of women in that stage where the doctors or healthcare
yeah,
professionals just aren't listening to them.
no,
My poor mom-in-law, she went through that too in her 90s. She would complain about this or that, and the doctors were like, well, yeah, you're 92,
his
what do you
age,
expect?
yeah, yeah,
you know so I mean, to a certain extent, okay, but I'd rather them say, I wish I could help you, I don't know what to do. I mean, that
yes,
would be the better answer, instead of
yes.
just dismissing it. But it is what it is. So, oh no, this was great. Do you have any advice for upcoming designers who may not even realize about this whole concept? And what would you say to them, or how, if you were to
Yeah.
speak to a class of designers, what would you say?
So I'm actually giving we have a lot of community colleges and colleges around this area, and some of them do provide a certificate or a degree in interior design. So I came up with a program just for universal design. I'm not the interior design instructor, but I've been brought in to teach universal design, and as it relates to aging in place, so they
Awesome.
can get a hand on what this is all about, and maybe they can start focusing on something like this. And
Right.
I actually have a lot of OTs that come to me and say, this is something that I really want to start doing for my clients. How would you recommend me going about it? Should I go for my interior design degree too? I said, no, 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 no. You don't need to do that, but start with getting knowledge of universal design and getting your CAPS certificate. And
Right.
once you have that under your belt, then you'll have a good education focus behind you to know what to look for and what to recommend. You don't need your whole interior design. And as far as products coming up, that's something that, if you start belonging to different organizations and networking, you'll be getting all of that you're going to need in order to help your clients. So that's what I recommend, is just educating, whether I'm going
Yeah.
to a facility or online, just educating yourself about aging in place, universal design, and getting some type of certificate to give you some credibility. When you talk to people, and you say, yeah, this is what I do, but okay, so what's your background in it?
So what organizations do you recommend that people join, or what are you involved in?
So one of the organizations, so of course for Aging in Place, I am now a member of your and Janet's Aging in Place directory, which I
Thank
think
you.
is wonderful. That's one of the things that when I started working in this sector, um, I knew I needed vetted people that I could work with,
Right.
that I could trust, to refer to my clients.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where to begin. And that's when I started doing some research. And I came across the Aging in Place, National Aging in Place Council. And I noticed that we didn't have a mass chapter here. So I was originally one of the founding members of the National Aging in Place Council in Massachusetts.
Wow.
They had one, and then it went defunct a little bit, and we kind of resurrected it. So that's how I started, and then just getting involved with things around this area. And then again, when I came up, when I saw Aging in Place Directory, I said, "Oh, this is another great resource that I need to get involved in." Because it's just so important, the education that you give to people in general, and then getting people of the profession together, so we can get to know one another, so we can talk about things that we go through in our industry,
Exactly.
that we can help one another with. um, so I think it's great that what you and
And
that you
Janet,
and Janet had done, and of
thank you.
course, your senior safety advice website, which I've
Oh,
been on a few times too.
thank
Things
you.
like this is just so important, not just people in general, but people in the industry too. So I thank you for all that you're doing for this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was very surprised at the lack of communities
Yep,
that do that, because you're right. I mean, all the aging in place, but and then you know that there are so many people involved in this process.
yep,
Why can't you find them all in one place? And then we were getting emails and phone calls from people. I mean, here we are promoting to
yes,
do it, and
yes,
they were like, okay, great, I agree, I want to do it, but who do I call to do it? I'm thinking, well, you just go online. I mean, they're everywhere, and I couldn't
no,
find them. It was
no,
so hard. One on Facebook, one on LinkedIn, they were
exactly.
scattered everywhere. I said, "Look, we're going to have to bite the bullet and make this thing." And then, but it's been a great project, and I'm so um, proud actually to be part of it, and honored to be part of it. And Janet is such a dynamo,
She is.
with it as well. So I'm grateful that she let me in and help her. So she does all the great OT design stuff, and I'm the engineer in the back with all the SEO internet stuff.
Yeah, and
But
that collaboration together is just making this work and being successful, so
exactly, that's
kudos
what it's
to
all
you.
about. But it's really, it, as you said, it's so grateful and so not grateful, but it just fills your heart when you
Yes,
can do something for somebody, and you're just, I mean, it's everything. And as an OT, I mean, it's one of the reasons I went into OT. I worked in head injury, and it was just such an amazing. I still think of all my patients every day.
yeah,
How they doing? What happened? It's just
and you
yeah.
really made a difference in their life, and, and that's what it's all about,
That's
and
what it's all about. At
you
the end of
know,
the day,
the end of
when
the
you're
day.
when you're done with your days, you want
Yes,
to make sure that what you did
yeah,
impacted someone
somebody
somewhere somehow,
positively,
and
yes.
that's important.
Yep,
Oh, Evangeline, I want to thank you so much for being with me and sharing your sage advice. I think, again, I'm going to repeat, I think your clients are very, very lucky to have you. So, if you're listening to this podcast, watching it on YouTube, check her out at evangelineinteriors.com. She really does do design for ageless living. And I think that is so important, not only for seniors, but for family members with older adults, in their lives. And I think it's so great that you're doing this for design students, because I
mm,
think later generations, people had children later. So a
yes,
lot of these design students have older parents,
yes,
and if not, at least grandparents.
yep,
So they're perfect. They have a perfect demographic to work on.
yes, you're absolutely right there too, yes.
Yeah, it
Um,
would be interesting to see some of their case studies.
Yes. Well, who knows? Maybe I can share you some in a year or two. Who knows?
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. All right, Evangeline, I hope you have a beautiful day. And again, thank you. And we will see you again.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure really speaking with you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Evangeline. Thanks. Take care.